Harihi Om. Hari Anant, Hari Katha Anant, Sanatana Dharma 101 class on Bhakti Dhara continues. So we have seen that Bhakti is a great uniter. And also, Bhakti also is a great leveler. We have studied Bhakti as a great uniter. Bhakti is a great leveler. So Bhakti, debt repaid. So today's lecture continues on Bhakti, saying Bhakti is not only a uniter, Bhakti is a great leveler. Vinaro bhagyamu Vishnu katha, Vinubalamidhivo Vishnu katha, Vinaro bhagyamu Vishnu katha. So Bhakti, first Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Padasevanam. Annamaya sings beautifully. So even to listen in a congregation, Vinaro Bhagyamu Vishnu Katha Adinunti Sandhyadi Vidulalo Vedam Vaini Nadinchi Nide Narada Dulache Vidi Vidulane Vinaro Bhagyamu Vishnu Katha. Vinaro Bhagyamu Vishnu Katha. This is the comfort. Vinu Balam Iduvo Vishnu Katha. The Balam is basically Smarana. If you are Veda, so Veda is difficult. You don't understand Veda, but the way you sing itself, of course, musicians may sing it bright, but it's in Telugu. Although we know a little bit Telugu, Telugu is not my native tongue. But that Bhakti helps you. Vinaro Bhagyamu Vishnu Katha Adinuntis Sandhyadi Viludalo. So Bhakti is, we think that Bhakti is something. So if you talk to a hardcore Shastrajna, he may think Bhakti, okay, Bhakti is secondary. No. Annamaya, a great Bhakti poet, says, this is Bhakti. Bhakti is shown in the daily rituals you do. Sandhyadi Vidulalo, Vedam Painadi. Vedam Painadi means it is on the top of Veda. It's Bhakti. So which we will see that. Then where else you have to go? The epitome of Bhakti is Narada. Nadinchi Nide. So by singing, in streets, in not only the Bhuloka street, in the Swarga street, in the Padaloka street, saints like Narada have sung the name of Hari. Nadinchi Nide Narada Dulache Vidi Vidulane Vidi. So every street they have been singing, so it's an age-old tradition. Vinaro Bhagyamu Vishnu Katha. Even to listen to Vishnu Katha is a great Bhagyam. So Bhakti is the one that is helping you to go to the congregation, go to listen. Even to listen, you shouldn't think it's boring. If a Katha Vachak is saying something, your motivation to go itself is an attempt to reach the God. So what happened? This Bhakti brought the entire Bharat together once. Now this Bhakti is bringing the West and East together. We have seen that in the ISKCON movement, we are seeing in the movements of Sri Sampradaya, but by His Holiness Tridandi Chinna Jiyar. So he is going around the world, to Australia, to England, to Europe, to United States. Particularly, he has a big follower in the United States, building congregations, publishing. So it's not only an uniter, it is also a leveler. So Bhakti, debt repaid. You may think what debt it is. In 1950s, there was a great historian. He is a Padma Bhushan, decorated by civil honors by Government of India, called Professor K.A. Neelakanta Shastri, a great historian who first chronicled the history of South India. He says the Bhakti movement, of course we know that Bhakti movement, the southern India, down south of Narmada, including Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, the united Andhra Pradesh, now Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. All these places were responsible for creating a movement called Bhakti. And Professor K.A. Nilakanta Shastri, a great historian par excellence, particularly on South India, he was born in a small remote village on the bank of Tamraparni called Kallidai Kurichi. It's a beautiful Varaha temple on the banks of Tamraparni, a perennial river. Why I mentioned that river is it's also the river that is flowing through my village, and it is also where the Bhakti movement started actually. So this K.A. Nilakanta Shastri says, okay, God, prior to Bhakti movement, God was biased in a way. Because all the epics, including the Veda, we have seen that how Vedas came from the Punjab land to the Ganges plain and then to Mithila and all so on and so forth. So the South India was having a pain that nothing started. No such movement. Vedic movement started in northern India. Epic literature movement started in northern India. But nothing started in southern India. So God is not biased. So the God had a debt, in fact. So he repaid it by creating the Bhakti movement in South India, obviously. So he's a Paramapita. So beautifully, when he talks about the Bhakti movement, he is the one who says that the debt long the Supreme had, he repaid by making sure that a very great movement, all the Vedic movement, everything is there, still there, it will be there, but it is not for everybody. But Bhakti movement is for everybody. Bhakti movement is in every vernacular you can name off. So God in fact paid the debt he owed to the people of India with multiple interests. So that's why Annamaya came, Purandaradasa came, Jnaneswar came, Tukaram came, Namadev came, Yedutachan came, Samartha Ramadas came, Bhadrachala Ramadas came, Potanna came, you name, keep on naming. Of course, Alvars and Nayanars came. So he writes, when he is talking about the philosophy and religion of South India, he doesn't talk about all the Vedic philosophy. What is the religion? The religion of South India is basically Bhakti. In the sphere of religion, as generally in all matters of spiritual culture, South India began by being heavily indebted to the North. Of course, look how he writes. But in the course of centuries, it more than amply repaid the debt and made signal contributions to the theory and practice of religion and to the philosophic thought in its various aspects. Its saints and seers evolved a new type of movement called Bhakti. So, Veda, we thought that it was basically theory and practice. Of course, yes, when Vedic movement started, it had theory and practice, and over the course of time, the practical aspect shrunk. Nobody is doing the Srauta Yajna. All the yagas, even Vajapayam or Rajasuyam, you can't do Ashwamedha in the Kali Yuga. So, practical aspect basically shrunk. Today they say roughly about only 120 Nitya Agnihotris are there in entire Bharat. Whereas the Bharat population is 1.2 billion, whereas number of the Agnihotris, Nitya Agnihotris is only 120. So you see that practical aspects have shrunk. Whereas Bhakti is growing and movements are growing around the world. Okay, so many movements, Bhakti movements. So, it amply repaid. So, in the course of centuries, it more than amply repaid the debt and made signal contributions to the theory and practice with the formation of new movement called Bhakti. So, although our aim is not to chronicle the time of Bhakti, because there are two views you have to take. Bhakti according to the Sampradaya, time frame of Bhakti according to Sampradaya, and time frame of Bhakti according to historians. So when you talk about Bhakti, The movement of Bhakti basically started in the north after it was started in South India. So in the South India, actually according to tradition, it was in the beginning of Kali Yuga. How old is Kali Yuga now? 5,125 years. We are on the 5,125th year of the Kali. 42 days after the birth of Kali. Actually, this is the Sampradayic, this is the religious, this is the traditional view. 42 days after the birth of Kali, the Bhakti tradition actually started on the banks of Tamraparni, a perennial river. This is a unique aspect of Tamraparni is it is the only river that begins in Tamil Nadu, state of Tamil Nadu, and ends in the state of Tamil Nadu. Whereas Tamil Nadu is fertile by rivers like Kaveri. But Kaveri starts, it's a lot of conflicts there, let's not go there. Kaveri starts in Karnataka, in Coorg, and then it goes to the sea in Tamil Nadu. So it goes through the two states, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And if you look at the perennial rivers in Andhra, major perennial rivers, even you take three, let's take three. Krishna, it begins in Maharashtra, grows through a little bit of Karnataka, and then it goes through Telangana and it goes through Andhra Pradesh, 4 states. Similarly, Godavari, it starts in Triambakeshwar in Nasik, goes through Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. And Tungabhadra, that goes through Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, and it is a tributary of the river Krishna. So mostly these rivers, it gets split between states. But Tamraparni is unique, that it begins on the western Ghats in the state of Tamil Nadu and it goes to the sea in the state of Tamil Nadu. So on the banks of Tamraparni, on the 42nd day of Kali Yuga, this is a Sampradayic, philosophical way of understanding, there came a Muni, the Muni was born, his name was Shatakopa. Kopa mane angry, Shata mane. Shata is what you call it, it's a gas, Vayu. So everybody has that Vayu, that when you come out of the womb, you get engulfed with the Vayu. Okay, that's why the child cry. Okay, it's coming into a new environment, take it. So it is coming into a new environment, so it has already sensed the sound and all the thing. Only thing is, the baby has not seen the new world. So whereas Shatakopa, what he did, he made sure that he is not, he is still having the previous birth's information to him. So he did not let the Shata, the Vayu, win over him. Hence the name Shatakopa. He was born in my town called Alvar Trinagari. So according to the Vaishnavic philosophy, the Bhakti movement began on the day when he was born. He was born on the 42nd day of Kali Yuga. That is the traditional understanding. Okay, so the time when Shatakopa was born, Bhakti movement began. Around that same time, what did I say? Nilakanta Shastri says this, probably because he is taking into account this concept as well. Although he is an historian, we'll come to that. So 16 years, this young boy, the child did not speak, did not eat, probably it only breathed. On the 16th year, it started reciting poems. Okay, and that is the corpus. It is known as the Dravida Veda. Dravida means Tamil, or Dravida is the land that is south of India. But in most of the cases, if you say Dravid, that is Tamil. It refers to Tamil. So he started singing the essence of Veda in poetic form in vernacular. So it is known as Dravida Veda. Okay. And that is, it is not an exact translation of Veda, but it is the Sara, but it is the juice, that's the essence of the Veda. But it is sung in vernacular, but it only took the top essence of Veda. It doesn't talk about Pashubali, it doesn't talk about karma, nothing. It only talks about what is said in Veda. The Veda talks about the Supreme, the Father. So it started praising and eulogizing. It only took the eulogetic portion of the Veda, the Sukta, so Sukta Bhagas of Veda, and then put in the poetic form, in a mind and bone melting poetic form, and gave it to the people in their local vernacular so that they could unite closely with the congregation and the Lord. And that poem is known as Dravida Veda. So 16. So actually for 16 years this divine child, don't ask me how it grew, take it, this is faith. Okay. So while this was happening, around that time, on the banks of Ganges, Vyasa gave birth to, he didn't give birth, Vyasa had a boy called Sukha, who is credited to spread Bhagavat. Understand? Now I am going to say how the Lord repaid the debt with interest to South India. So on the 6th, basically even though Shatakopa was born on the 42nd day, the Bhakti movement started only when he started singing in the vernacular Tamil when he was 16 years old. Okay, actually he became speaking. He came into life when he was 16 years. Similarly, around that time when the Kali Yuga was born, Sukha Muni came into the world. Directly he came. And he was a 16-year boy. He came from Agni to Veda Vyasa. But then he didn't, but that was the time when Vyasa was writing his last epic. Bhagavat is the last epic of 18 Puranas. And then he taught only to his son around that time frame when this was going on in the south. But in the south already the Dravida Veda was spread to the masses. It started propagating already. Whereas Sukha Brahmam started reciting and spreading Bhagavat first to Parikshit roughly about 40th year in Kali. There are some references to say when Bhagavat became public. Of course, the sage Vyasa taught to his son Sukha. But the Sukha Brahmam was the first propagator of Bhagavat to the world through Parikshit. Parikshit was the grandson of Arjuna. Parikshit was the son of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was the son of Arjuna. So, when Parikshit was having only 7 days to live, we don't have to go to those stories. So, the today's class is how through bhakti the debt was repaid amply as stated by Nilakanta Shastri. So, the Bhagavat was first taught to Parikshit on the bank of Ganges around 40th year of Kali. Whereas in South India, on the banks of Tamraparni. So Tamraparni was the epicenter of Bhakti movement in South India around 16th year of Kali. The Ganges was the epicenter of Bhakti. Of course, if you say Bhakti, Bhagavat is invariably the text. But the vernacular poems were forerunners to Bhagavat in one account. So the Bhagavat was spread to Parikshit and so on and so forth around 40th year in Kali. So roughly 14 years prior to that, the vernacular Dravida Veda started spreading. Not only one aspect. The same Shatakopa gave 4 different corpus of vernacular resembling 4 Vedas. So this Shatakopa Muni, Telugu land, Karnataka land, Kerala land, even Maharashtra land, the Bhakti poems came later on, later in Kali Yuga. It's established fact. Both in terms of historical point of view and religious point of view, the great Bhakti poems in different vernaculars, whether it is, then came Telugu, okay, then came Kannada, then Marathi, then Kerala. The Bhakti poems, I am telling. So the historians also document that the Dravid Bhasha, that is Dravid Bhasha means it's Tamil Bhasha, was the forerunner in the Bhakti poems. So 40th year in Kali is when Bhagavat spread through Parikshit. And then people also listened while the great Muni Parikshit was reciting Vinaro Bhagyamu Vishnu Katha. So Parikshit did not scribe. Parikshit did not take it in the manuscript, palm manuscripts. There's no account, only listening. Whereas in South India, another movement came. Not only these Bhakti poems in vernacular were recited by the Shatakopa Muni to his disciple, whose name was Madhura Kavi, who was 80 years old, whereas Shatakopa was only 16 years. Okay, very aged disciple. Age doesn't matter. So, that Madhura Kavi scribed it in manuscript as well, palm leaf. That's a different. So, it got documented. Whereas there is no clear indication whether Bhagavat was documented or not. Okay. Around the 40th year, Parikshit listened. While he listened on the banks of Ganges, there were lot of Pauranikas or Kathavachaks, or the people who expound on this Katha, known as Suta. So, lot of people listened and they started spreading Bhagavat around Bharat. Okay. So, as Nilakanta Shastri states, Bhakti movement started spreading with well documentation in South India, particularly in Dravid land, which is Tamil land, because of Alvars. Now come to historically. While this is the case, historians chronicle the Bhakti movement to be somewhere around 5th century to 7th century. And Nilakanta Shastri says, the Bhakti movement and the birth of the Bhakti saints. So, in South India, two great religions in those days. One, a staunch follower of Lord Vishnu. Another sect, staunch follower of Shiva or Rudra. The staunch followers of Vishnu are called as Vaishnavas. The staunch followers of Shiva are called Saivites. So, around mid of 6th century, about 550 CE or AD, the Alvars started, the first set of Alvars, 3 Alvars, there are 12 Alvars and 63 Nayanars. The first set of Alvars started reciting poems and spreading the Bhakti movement. We are now talking, don't confuse with the traditional view I said. Now we are coming to the historical account which the historians agree. So around 550, Nilakanta Shastri chronicles the date of Bhakti movement in South India was about 550 CE. When both sects of Bhakti movement, one total followers of Vishnu called Alvars, it's a Tamil word, Alvars means you are immersed in Bhakti. And the followers of Shiva are called Nayanars. I'm shrinking it. It is in Tamil it is called Nayanmars, but they are Nayanars. So, these two people started, and again, like the Madhura Kavi documented the Shatakopa's vernacular text, the requirement in the Vaishnavism is that you can be called Alvars only if you sing vernacular poems. You sing Bhakti poems in vernacular Tamil in praise of Vishnu, then you are called Alvar. Whereas in terms of Saivism, it is not a requirement that you have to sing poems. There are 63 Nayanars, out of that only 10 people have sung poems. But the corpus, the total volume of the Bhakti poems in Saivism is much more. Several thousand as against 4,000 in Vaishnavism. Okay. But Vaishnavism made a point that it based its understanding of philosophy using Bhakti. That's the greatest qualifier of Vaishnavism is Vaishnavism merged philosophy with religion. Bhakti is a religion, whereas philosophy is Vedanta. Understanding yourself, understanding the Supreme, understanding the relationship between you and Supreme is philosophy. Okay. So the Smartas, the Vedic religion, spent much time and effort and energy on understanding and elucidating the philosophical attributes like Shankara. Even though he also propagated Bhakti. But the Vaishnavism made a point that you have to understand philosophy with the prism of Bhakti. So Ramanuja came and codified the Vedantic reading using Bhakti. So it is called, not only jnana is enough, not only knowledge is needed. Oh, understand, contemplate. That's not alone enough. You have to have empathy. You have to have the feeling of empathy. You have to have the feeling of love. You have to have the feeling of affection towards the Supreme, affection towards your fellow men and women, to understand those edicts given in the Vedas and Vedanta. So it is called Bhakti qualified jnana or Bhakti qualified knowledge. So you see, in Vaishnavism, it is codified into their general understanding that through Bhakti, gaining knowledge with the flavor of Bhakti is needed to understand the scripture. So the phrase they use is Bhakti Rupa Panna Jnanam. Bhakti qualified knowledge is needed to understand the Vedic texts and Vedantic texts to get some mastery on the philosophical or ontological on the ontological understanding. Akashat Vayuhu Vayoragnihi Agnerapah Apa Prithvi Prithivya Annam. So that gives the ontological structure. Veda says this. So what is this? Agnerapah. So from Agni came the water. Apova and Prithvi. From you need to have water in the world. Otherwise you can go and live in moon. You can't, because they are still fast looking for water in the moon. So, but then this is dry. Okay, Agner Apaha. Okay, if you are a chemist, you may but still debate it. Okay, then you say, okay, sun dries the water from the ocean. But what is that splits the sodium chloride in the sun? What the power sun has to split the sodium chloride from the seawater, from the brine? It's difficult to comprehend. But if you have a bhakti, you say that the world is a creation, like Genesis. In the beginning, God made the earth. So that is the Genesis beginning. Similarly, we are people of faith, so we understand that beginning, the Genesis, is because of the Creator. Then that Creator is within all the sentient and insentient being. So if you say Agner Apaha, the essence of that, the Atma, the inner core of that Agni is nothing but the Supreme. So that you say, because I am a Bhaktiman, so I believe its entire thing is the Supreme. Whether you name it Krishna or Shiva, whatever it is. So now you are forcing yourself to read the philosophical, ontological structure with that Bhakti prism, so you don't have to waste time. Why waste time? Which came first? That's not the thing. Which came first? Whether heat came first or water came first or vapor and then earth came first. Why to waste? This is beyond your understanding. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha. In Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmanandavalli, chapter 2, 4th paragraph. Starts like that. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidwan na bibeti kadachaneti. So it's all the bliss. Take it like that. What is a bliss to me? I believe because I have affection towards the Lord, that is bhakti. So you are comprehending the knowledge in the Vedic corpus with some Preconceived thought, us take it, that is bhakti. Bhakti rupapanna jnanam. Okay, so don't waste time, because there is no end to it. Still fighting creation or evolution. Still, why to waste time? We are only 100 years. There's so much to learn. In spite of fighting on this, assume that the Supreme created everything and see what all the acts he did. Look at Switzerland. Look at Everglades. Look, these are all his creations. Go enjoy rather than fighting which came first. So that is bhakti. So it brings close to what is practical. So that is bhakti rupapanna jnanam. So Vaishnavism emphasized this. So much to learn. Why to force yourself on knowing which came first, which is what? So bhakti rupapanna jnanam. To do that, people also thought something beautiful. Why to use the language which is not in practice? So around the mid of 6th century or 5th century, 5th century to the 7th century was the time South India was ruled by Cholas and Pandyas and Cheras, the great patrons of art and literature. So they started patronizing these people, and they made sure that these vernaculars were recited in temples and congregations. So it started spreading. This prophecy was told in Bhagavatam as well. We don't know the exact date of Bhagavatam. It should be 5,125 years old. Because Bhagavat came when Krishna went to his abode. This is only tradition. Kritadishu prajarajan kala vichanti sambhavam kalau kalu bhavishyanti narayana parayana. In the 11th canto of Bhagavat, it says, Narad Muni says to Vasudev. So after all this happened, everything calm came, after all Mahabharata, and then Lord Krishna went back to Dwaraka. So his father was ruling. Lord Krishna did not rule. His father was still ruling, Vasudeva. And Narada does his travels, and then he comes to Dwaraka. This is Bhagavat, 11th canto. 10th canto is Sumnam Bom. All about the birth and deeds of Krishna. So he says in Kali Yuga, Kalau Kalu Bhavishyanti Narayana Parayana. There will be people who will be followers of Narayana. Kvachin Maharaja Dravideshu cha Bhurishaha. They will be first they will be born in plenty in South India, particularly Tamil Nadu. Dravideshu cha Bhurishaha. This is the, what did I say? Nilakanta Shastri said, Bhakti movement was the one that came to repay amply the debt which they owed to South India, because none of those Sastric texts evolved in South India prior to Bhakti movement. Okay? This prophecy was given in Bhagavat. Kalau kalu bhavishyanti Narayana parayanaha kvachin maharaja dravideshu cha bhurishaha. Dravideshu cha bhurishaha. Here and there, kvachit. So this Narada is talking to Vasudeva, and he says, Vasudev, don't worry, the Kali Yuga will be spared because of a movement called Bhakti. And this will be done by the disciples of Vishnu, whom we call Alvars. Where it starts, Tamraparni Nadi Yatra Kritamala Payasvini Tamraparni. That is where, what did I say? This Shatakopa Muni was born in a town called Alvar Trinagiri. That's where I am going with my son this month. That's my hometown now, home village. Tamraparni. Parni mane leaves. Tambra mane copper. So a lot of copper dust, minerals. So hence the name Tamraparni. Tamraparni. So the Bhakti movement starts in Tamraparni. It doesn't name actually Shatakopa. We have to do the Anvayam. Tamraparni Nadi Yatra. Then it slowly comes north, all in Tamil Nadu. The next northern river is Vaigai, today's Vaigai, but the Bhagavad calls it as Kritamala. Then the river called Payasvini, means Palar, which is on the banks of Kanchipuram. Kanchi is a great city patronized by Pallava kings who are prior to the later imperial Cholas. We don't want to go all this. Okay. Kaveri, it's a great river where culture flourished, that begins in Coorg, flows through the outskirts of Mysore. And big famous dam is there, Krishnaraja Sagar Dam, and then goes through Tamil Nadu. Okay, and it fertiles Tamil Nadu, it creates delta. Kaveri cha Mahapunya, Pratichi cha Mahanadi. And then there are rivers. Normally these rivers flow from west to east. But in the state of Kerala, it is different. The rivers flow from east to west. So the rivers flowing from east to west are called Pratichi. And one famous river is Periyar. Okay. Ye pibanti jalam tasam manuja manujeshwaraha. Those people who reside on these rivers are purified souls who will propagate bhakti. So what did Nilakanta Shastri say? Tamil Nadu and Dravida Desha got the benefit and that amply enriched the bhakti movement so that the great debt has been repaid. Ye pibanti jalam tasam manuja manujeswara prayo bhakta bhagavati vasudeve amalash. They will prayo bhakta. These are the people who are bhaktas, pristine, amalaha, pristine people who will spread bhakti in vernacular. So if it is spread in vernacular, you create mass, a movement is created. So it's a big land, 22 official language, multiple dialects. So bhakti began. This is documented. This prophecy is given in Bhagavat because we are the believers. We are faithfuls. Okay, so we take it. Okay, which I have already told in the class number 1. Okay, so Bhagavat says, now in the mid of 5th century to 7th century, historians chronicle that Dravidian-based vernacular poems started by Vaishnavite saints called Alvars, and along the same time a women saint in Saivism, that's very important, called Karaikal Ammayar. The name of a town called Karaikal Ammayar means 3. So when the Alvars started singing, the Saivite movement also started. Historical view by a saint called Karaikal Ammayar. Ammayar means eulogized way of saying women. Karaikal, she is named after the town where she lived, Karaikal Ammayar. But it's very debatable who came first. But both movements started in the mid 6th century, 550 CE, according to Nilakanta Shastri. And so Bhakti movement means it still continues. But the corpus of literature was between 5th century and 7th century. And historically, 7th century is when they say Adi Shankara was propagating the Advaita. So he did mention one of the Saivite Nayanars, Thirugnana Sambandar. So, one tradition, the Sringeri Mutt agrees to this tradition. Shankaracharya was around 7th century, 6th, 7th century, but there are a lot of debates. But in any case, Bhakti movement began in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. You could see then the Bhakti movement, as soon as this Bhakti movement, Bhakti poets came, the Vaishnavite sect leaders accepted them as equal to Vedas. And they made a point that Vedas and the native vernacular poems in eulogy of Lord Vishnu are on par, and they have to be recited. So a Vaishnavite should learn both Sanskritized Vedas and Dravid Veda, which is in Tamil. So they are called as Ubaya Vedanti, Ubaya mane two. Which was not the case in Smartha, even today. Only Vaishnavites, even if you are in Andhra, even if you are in Karnataka, even if you are in Rajasthan, if you are a Vaishnavite following Ramanuja, you have to recite the vernacular in Tamil. That is the case. Tirumala, the richest Hindu temple in the world, is a Lord of Seven Hills, which is actually today in Telugu land, Andhra Pradesh. The recitation on top of Annamaya's recitation, the daily ritual will only have Tamil poems. So it is eulogized on par, and they made it a strict adherence that Tamil poems of Alvars in the vernacular set in Tamil tunes are recited and part of daily ritualistic practice. So it united, not only Vedas united, but Vedas are for only some sect of people. Don't ask why, that is how it is, leave it. But then don't worry, if it is of point of no return, why to worry? Take a different route. So, the Vaishnavite preceptors and the Saivite preceptor, said, forget, don't beat your head that you are not allowed to read Veda or you don't understand Sanskrit. Forget it. Let us now create a movement where we are reaching the supreme in our own vernacular. So that is known as Bhakti. Now you know that in the course of centuries, of course the environment and ambience supported it. It more than amply repaid the debt and made signal contributions to the theory. Somebody wrote it. Then comes theory. It is not, these vernaculars doesn't talk about doing havans or yajnas. All it said is simply sing. Vinaro bhagyamu Vishnu katha. Annamaya says, listen to these songs. And they came like storms and united the people. It melted their bone. Because it basically talked about the characters of the Lord, His activities. Well, Veda said all this. Indra killed Namichi. Agni swallowed an evil called Jaruta. All this there. But Veda gave different deities different name. But that again confused. Should I pray Indra? Should I pray Agni? Who is good? Although Veda again says in a cryptic form, Ekam Sati Vipra Baguda Vadanti. This wavering thing is gone in Bhakti movement. If you are a Vaishnavite, your supreme is Lord Narayan. Forget everything. If you are a Saivite, your supreme is Rudra, Shiva. So that is all there. So I am very determined. I know my Lord is my salvation. Like the Western things, they say, this is the path to heaven. Likewise, the path to heaven or Vaikuntha or Moksha, if you are a Vaishnavite, is Vishnu himself. And the path to Kailash is Rudra. So that is there. So you are going with a clear understanding. So all that, whether it is a paganistic, so then that's what the problem came. So the Sanatana Dharmic people get ridiculed. You have so many gods with different shape and different name. Not that. It gave you flexibility, which we have already described. But those things were all culled in Bhakti movement. If I am the disciple of Gaudaya Sampradaya or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya, to me it is Krishna with his celestial better half Radha. It's clear. So that the whom should I pray, whom should I eulogize, that is clearly stated in Bhakti movement, depending upon which route you take. How does that come? That you should be born into it, and it also allowed you to change. Vaishnavism allowed. If you are born as an Advaiti, then you understand. If you are born into a family of Advaiti, then you understand that you are more inclined. The doctrines of Visishtadvaita propagated by Swami Ramanuja is your liking. Vaishnavism accepted it by a process of absorbing, which is not the case in other two philosophies. Advaitis don't say, if you are a Visishta Advaiti, come here. There's no proper process of indoctrination. Put it that way. So Vaishnavism was much flexible because it all, that person, Rachel is now more attracted towards the concept of Vaishnavism and the Bhakti movement which the Vaishnavism codifies. So I'm going to go become a Vaishnavite. Okay, come. Take a preceptor and then get indoctrined into that Vaishnavism, then you are a Vaishnavite. Okay, so that is what it is. So then you learn the vernacular because you have to be in that congregation. So what is the vernacular they use? Of course they know Sanskrit. You don't have to compulsorily, but at least know some poems of Bhakti poems or alvars. So they codified the understanding of philosophy using these Bhakti poems. So Bhakti again became an uniter. So Veda says, okay, Indra killed Namuchi. Then Agni absorbed an evil called Jaruta. Like that, don't worry about Indra Agni. There's one supreme called Narayana. He has so many incarnations, but important incarnations are 10 incarnations. So understand his beauty. His Purna avatars are Ram and Krishna. Forget about fighting. Who is better? Go see the life lived by Ram and Krishna. That Bhakti poem categorically stated why this Ram came. Why Krishna came? Veda says, Pita Putrena Pitruman Yoni Yo. Now it says in abstract when Pita Putrena Pitruman. Who is Pita? It didn't say. It's Brahman. But again confusing. Should I take Kartikeya as the Brahman or should I take Shakti as the Brahman? Pita, the Supreme, came as a son. So that prophecy is also there in Veda, but it is abstract. It's not clear. Whereas if you are a Vaishnavite, it is Narayana came incarnated as Vishnu, Vishnu incarnated as Ram, Krishna, Nrsimha, Vamana, and so on and so forth. If you are a Saivite, it is Shiva. They don't call Avatara in Saivism, they call it is celestial act, Vilayadal. Okay. So, then Annamaya also sings Brahma Mokate, Para Brahma Mokate, then he qualifies. When he finishes that same poem, it says it's all Venkateswara. So at least this Bhakti movement gave you a clear indication who this Supreme is. Veda did not. Veda let it loose, hanging. Veda says, okay, it's up to you to choose. But follow Veda. That's what Veda's interest is. If you are a Sanatin, follow Veda. Veda lets different deities, which Max Muller, in fact, did a favor, in my opinion. He coined this because in fact, people say his interpretations are not to the liking of many staunch people. Fine. But one good thing, if I remember his notes, and I studied long time back, when I was in Leeds in England, Oxford was not that far. You can take a train and go from Leeds to Oxford, where the Max Muller and Monier Williams, in fact, that is the seat of Sanskrit knowledge. Then came Harvard for Sanskrit. But Oxford is still, lot of manuscripts are there in Bodleian Library. If time permits, if you go to London, if you are interested, go take a train, go to Oxford. Oxford is slightly northwest of London. Cambridge is northeast of London. So Oxford is the seat of still Sanskrit in Europe, like Tübingen. In Germany, it's Heidelberg and Tübingen. Likewise, Oxford. So Max Muller said, okay, why to fight? Let's consider Hinduism also believes in one supreme, but it has different deities, all inclusive monotheism. He gave a beautiful phrase. Okay, because your religion can only have one God, one supreme. It cannot have multiple gods fighting amongst them. So, now, for people like me, Indology, although I am a scientist, my day job is a professor of material science. But this, I do it because people like Rachel and all think that they can get some new information from me, okay? Whatever it is worth. So, all inclusive monotheism, because then they say, okay, that Western religion, Abrahamic religion are all about monotheism. How can a religion be when there are multiple gods fighting amongst the people, fighting amongst themselves to show who is supreme? No. All inclusive monotheism. So Max Muller perhaps coined this phrase. In a way, it's a service to the Sanatana Dharma. All inclusive, it helps, it satisfies. Okay, yes, Shiva, Vishnu, Narayana, everything is manifestation of that supreme, and since I am a Vaishnavite, to me that supreme is Narayana or Vishnu, different names, that's fine. Naranam ayanaha yasya saha iti Narayanaha Vishu vyapti iti Vishnu. So ever pervading is Vishnu, and from whom everything manifested is known as Narayana. Naranam ayana. That is the crucible of all the sentient and insentient is Narayana, and that supreme is ever pervading Vishnu. Okay. So Bhakti movement said, okay, you are a Vaishnavite. There are 12 Alvars, and the last of Alvars was known as Trimangai Alvar. He says, okay, then it emphasized idol worship in those places that were eulogized in those Dravidian poems. They are called as Divya Des. Divya mane superior. So these 12 Alvars, they cannot go to each and every town or every village. They went to 106 places in this land, and two. One is Tiruparkadal, the Milky Ocean. Another one is Sri Vaikunta. Okay, that is beyond our reach. Milky Ocean and Vaikunta. So you are able to see 106. Even in 106, one or two is not clearly identified. As of today. So roughly about 104 places you can visit. So these are the places eulogized by this Bhakti sign. So for Vaishnavites, those are important. Saivites said 245 something. So that is they call Padal Petrasalam. That is a typical Tamil name. Vaishnavites, since they take both Sanskrit and Tamil, they gave the name Divya Des. Desh mane place, Divya mane celestial. And they said go see places and don't only limit these places. Wherever you see idol, understand as long as they are consecrated according to text. And what are those texts? Agamas, Panchararatra Agrama, Vaikanas Agama. Let's not go into that. So the Bhakti poems clarified, okay, yes, the Lord rests in these granite stones, consecrated granite stones, not much marble. So South India, it's all granite. So as long as you go to these consecrated, religiously, spiritually consecrated places, yes, it is as equal as the Lord reciting in Vaikunta. And that they told, hammered clearly in these Bhakti poems. You see, all that wavering and confusions is going away. It unites people. In the vernacular, it clearly says singing is an act which pleases the Lord. Eulogize Him, Stuti. This is what Veda did. This is what Veda did. Veda says, Rigved said somewhere, I am the Father. God says, whether it is Indra or Agni, let's not fight over that. So the Supreme says in Rigved, Mam havante pitaram na jantavo aham dhashushe Vibhajami bhojanam. I am the father, so I will do the duty of a father. Vibhajami bhojanam. I will distribute bhojanam. Bhojanam means it's food, but here you have to take things. So Veda says that. But then there is no deity for Indra, there is no deity for Agni. Agni can be seen, but what kind of an Agni? Agni can be used for cooking, Agni can be used for oven, Agni can be used for cremation. Which Agni? So, no, the Tamil vernacular said, Telugu vernacular, and also Purandara Dasa's Padyam also said that, okay, Purandara Vitala, Pandripur, on the banks of Chandrabhaga, you see the Lord standing on stones. So he is the same Supreme in Vaikuntha. Go pray to him. And it gave the punch. No quabbling, no wavering. Why these places the gods have stood in idol form is because for us to focus our mind. And that last Alvar says clearly, beautifully in Tamil, Pinnanar Vanangum Sodi. There is a city called Tirumuzhikalam, beautiful scenic village in Kerala, which is one Divya Desa. It says Tirumuzhikalam. The Lord that is standing in Tirumuzhikalam is Vaikunthanatha. The Supreme, why he stood there is for people like Ram and for people like Ram's son Madhav and the progenies after progenies after progenies. Pinnanar means generations after generation. For people, Ram is gone. One day Ram will be gone. Vaikundam Puguvadu, and then it says, don't worry, Manush. That Bhakti poem says, for the people, generations after generation. This Bhakti poem clarifies. Whereas Veda doesn't say. Veda also talks about idling, but predominantly it is ritualistic and it's in abstract. It says, understand Atma. In Bhakti Yoga, chapter 12, Krishna also says, Aksharam. He says Aksharam. Aksharam means Atma or Paramatma. That's complication. But Bhakti poem did not leave any complications. Kadalal Kasindi Kannir Malgi. When the Tirunjana Sambandar was singing about Shiva in a place called Sirgadi, that is fixed. That Lord you see is the supreme Rudra for you. That Lord in a scenic Tirumuzhikalam is the Narayana. Why he is standing there? You are gone. Palaces of Chola kings, Chera kings are gone. But Srirangam is there. Tanjore is still there. Tirupati is still there. Pinnanar Vanangum Sodi. The Tejas, the God is for generations and generations to see. So you focus. So only Bhakti poem did this clearly. Because in Kali, we keep fluctuating. So this Bhakti poem in vernacular said, don't worry, you go to Tirumala. That is the Lord, Brahman, Supreme. So Bhakti poems united and I gave a movement to be closer to the Supreme, and there is no distinction. It's not that Annamaya poems can be only recited by men. No. Anybody. Even Westerners, you want just sing like Brindavan. You go to Brindavan. Everybody transcendental sing. So that is Bhakti movement. So basically Bhakti movement came and that prophecy was there in Bhagavad, which historians also agree in the mid of 6th century, 550 to 7th century. These saints. Then only Annamaya came, 17th century. So this is 5th century. So Annamaya, I guess it was 17th century or something. My dates may be wrong. Purandara Dasa came earlier to him, like that. Right. And then Samartha Ramadas was a contemporary of Shivaji Maharaj. Then after the time only Bhadrachala Ramadas came, who built the temple town Bhadrachalam, on the bank of Godavari. When Godavari leaves Maharashtra, Nanded, Nanded is the second most sacred place for Sikh. The first sacred place for Sikh is what is that? The Golden Temple, Amritsar. And the second most is Nanded. Godavari flows. That is the border between Telangana and Maharashtra. So as soon as the Godavari river enters Telangana, the temple town of Lord Rama, Bhadrachalam, that was patronized by a sage and a poet in Telugu called Bhadrachala Ramadas. You should not confuse. That's why I'm telling this. There are two Ramadas. One is Samartha Ramadas, who was a preceptor for Shivaji Maharaj, contemporary of Aurangzeb. Those are all documented, historically approved documents. So, and then Samartha Ramadas, Bhadrachala Ramadas, Potanna, who translated Bhagavad into Telugu, Potanna Bhagavata, Bhakti. So it reached it because Bhagavatam is in Sanskrit. Bhagavad is difficult. It's even though they say it was the last thing. Imagine how difficult it would have been the other Puranas. So it was at the rear end of Vyasa's time he wrote Bhagavad. So he became mellowed. He was such a great knowledge person. So when you talk about his Brahma Sutra, which he did first, the aphorisms, it is tough. Janmadhyasya echaha sastrayo nitvat tattu samanvayat. That's all aphorisms. What do you understand? Nothing. Then all the big poems he wrote, Brahmanda Purana, Skanda Purana, Garuda Purana, all that. But Bhagavatam is soft. But even compared to Ramayana, Bhagavad is tough because it is a mixture. Some chapters come in the prose, majority come in the poetry form. And those poetries are not simple, anushtup like Ramayana. So Bhagavad is tough. So they translated, Telugu came Potanna, he translated. And they say Kuvempu also translated, a great Kannada poet also translated some Ramayana and poems like that. So till today it continues. So, but we stop up to 18th century or something like that. When Tyagaraja, a great Telugu musician, they call it as Vagyayakara. So that is the reason, even though he was a Telugu speaking person, he stayed in land of Tamil. Because Tamil Nadu patronized lot of this culture. That was the tradition then. So Bhakti united people. Bhakti crystal clear said, who is your supreme if you are following one track? No confusion. You are a Vaishnavite, that is a religion. So your supreme is Narayana. Take the hour poem and sing. If you are a Saivite, your supreme is Rudra. Take the Nayanar's poems and sing. And it tells that what is that, what to do. What to take salvation, take refuge in Narayan. Which Lord says, Sarvadharman in 1867, I guess, in the 18th stanza, 67th poem in Gita, it says, Sarvadharman parityajya mame ekam. Then confusion comes. If Lord himself said, give up all the actions, all the duties, so many interpretations are there, we don't have to go through. That confusions are not there. Simply recite, consider Lord Narayan is your supreme because you are a Vaishnava. Go feed the people. Jani Janardana Bhavaha. So Shatakopa, when he ends, he says, Tondu, that means Kainkaryam, service, Tonde Saidi Paraman Panitta Panivagai. In his magnum opus called Thiruvaimozhi, Vai means mouth, Mozhi means language, Thiru means celestial. So the poems that came out of his mouth sang about Narayana. He finishes that. Okay, contain Kamal. If you have to see the Lord's feet, or if you have to go to a bliss, do service. Service to him, service to his bhaktas, service to the society. So it is not that Bhakti poem just simply says, be an idle man, sit on a couch and then sing. No. It also preaches service to the society. Contain Kamalamalarpadam, Kandalume, Vinde, Odindana Vinaya Inavellam. Tonde Saidi Paraman Panitta. This is the edict God given, is to be service to him, service to his disciple, in fact service to the society. So that Bhakti clearly said everything. Go to temples. When you go to temple, you have to engage in activities. When you engage in activities, you mix with the community. Okay, you have to feed people. If you have to feed people, you have to cook. If you have to cook, you have to mingle with the people who farm the land. So that kind of a communal harmony also Bhakti created. So Bhakti unified. Bhakti sprang from south. It spread. Now it spread universally. Whether it is in Bengali, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sanskrit, also Bengali. He originally from Orissa, they say. Then rasas, different bhavas of bhakti came, and one of the great poems sprang from Orissa is Gita Govindam, Jayadev. He sang it was on Sringar Rasa. Then bhakti became more intimate. It became Sringara. They assume God is the man and I am the human, is the feminine, and they bonded. But then they have to unite with people. So Sringara Rasa, love and affection sprang in a pristine way. And one such great poem is Jayadeva's Gita Govindam. That became the text for Bhajan Sampradaya. Bhajans. Sa 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 swada sananda govinde loli lola lochana. So Radha was waiting to get Krishna. And once all of a sudden, sa means Radha, feminine. Sa 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 swada sananda govinde lola lochana. There yonder she saws in the Madhuban Krishna. It is known as Kalyana Ashtapati, the last. So there is no actual ritual here. No, the seeing, the mere sight of Lord Krishna is the salvation. Sa 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 swada sananda govinde lola lochana. So Radha saw Krishna at a distance, both eyes saw. Like Ram when he was walking through the streets of Ayodhya, on the balcony, Ma Sita was there. First they saw. That's marriage. Annalum nokkinan, avalum nokkinal. Sa sa saswada sananda govinde lola lochana. That's it. So bhakti. So bhakti unites. Bhakti became a movement. Bhakti sustains. Now nobody worries about, particularly in North India. Even though Bhakti spread in South, Bhakti is more in North India now. It's all Bhakti. You take fruits, you take mitai, you take sweets from a mitai wala, you give it to Dwaraknath, they take. Whereas in South it is more ritualistic. So Bhakti is now more intense in North India. Whether you go to Vrindavan, whether you go to Awadh, Ayodhya, you go to Dwarak, you go to Nashik, Bhakti, you go to Shambho in Varanasi, you take water from Ganges, you pour on the linga there. So, Bhakti, that closeness, that's why Sanatana Dharma is more vigor. It's a Veera Sanatana Dharma in the North India. Okay, so Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Arihi Om.